Hi, I'm Nancy Addison with Organic Healthy Life, and today I am meeting with Barb Webb, and she is a sustainable living expert and award-winning author with a diverse publishing background ranging from curriculum design to social media. She was featured in magazines such as Women's World, Red Book, Women's Day, Taste of Home, Simple and Delicious. And one of the things that I'm excited about having her share with y'all today is she has a new book all out called Getting Baked. And she talks about how to live rurally in the country life to the fullest and how to focus on food and entertaining, gardening, family, community, travel, and eco-friendly living. So I know that's something we all want to learn, Barb. And so we're so excited about you sharing this information with us today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a mouthful, right? I am delighted to be here, honored. Thank you for sharing your audience with me, and it's so nice to connect with you.
Thank you. Well, tell us about how you got into living this rural life and writing books about it so that we can all learn how to do it as well.
So in a nutshell, I grew up in the city actually, and then I moved to the country and fell in love with it. I had a great background though, as I came from parents who had gone, my father had gone through the Depression and my grandparents. And so I had a very sustainable background from some of the, great masterminds of reusing, recycling, reducing, and learning how to, make a meal stretch. And that entailed gardening, even though we lived in the city. And I had a neighbor who was from Italy who had a beautiful portage garden. And so I learned a lot from that experience as well. So moving into the country, it just sort of was a natural transition for me. And I became very invested in it from the time I was about 20 till now, and just learning as much as I could from as many experts and people as I could. And now sort of had digested that and kind of putting it into book format now, hopefully to inspire others to look at living a more sustainable lifestyle.
Well, I tell you, as we've all kind of been living in the twilight zone this last year, wondering about what's going to happen next, I know a lot of people are trying to become more independent, get out in the country or start a garden, even if it's in an apartment in town, and be more dependent on themselves for their food. And so, can you share with us a little bit about what your thoughts are for whoever they are around the world, where they might start with something like this, and maybe a little tip or story from your book that you can share with us?
Sure. I think that's no matter where you are, from a 1-bedroom apartment to a 500-acre farm, it doesn't really matter. You can always do something to enhance your lifestyle with nature. And, I always tell people, and the new book is about herbs. So medicinal herbs in particular, which are basic herbs, but looking at it in a different way. Herbs are so easy to grow on a windowsill in the smallest space possible. So that is something that everybody can do. It's a little step forward into integrating nature into your life and, changing your environment and your attitude towards that. So an anecdote from the book, well, there's a lot, but, basically, I think what I really want to get across to people is a transition that happened in my own life. And that is, how do we take herbs and looking at them from something we put to liven up our food and liven up and energize what we're eating, because that's what they do, right? I mean, herbs make everything taste wonderful and magical in different cuisines. So we know Chinese herbs versus Indian, cuisine tastes very differently. They're using different aromatic spices and herbs. That's one way to look at it. But that's just one of a whole multifaceted use of these amazing plants, which includes cannabis and hemp, which are discussed in the book as CBD. And how do we use these in a medicinal way? And medicinal meaning, how do we use them to support issues or areas we want to improve in our life, like stress management, insomnia, weight loss, anything that we have as a health and wellness goal. How do we use these plants to support that, and support that they do? And that was an eye opener for me as I transitioned from a gardener to understanding how plants actually heal our bodies and support all of the initiatives and things that we want to do in our wellness.
I love that, and I think a lot of people have been a little bit afraid to use things like hemp or CBD because it's been so vilified over the years because it was made illegal, and I believe that it was made illegal because the rope companies that were making synthetic rope didn't want the hemp to be competition, and also the pharmaceutical companies wanted to be able to make synthetic versions of what the CBD or the marijuana plant could do so that they could charge $500 a pill and people wouldn't be able to grow it for free. And I do also want to just throw out that I think it was a racial thing that they did as well, that they didn't want the poorer people or people of color to be able to have access to this free medicine that was, this plant that, in my opinion, is one of the healthiest plants on the planet. It has no enzyme inhibitors in it. It has some of the best absorbable vegan protein possible that you can buy. I personally like the cold pressed hemp seed oil because it's got vitamin E and it's got the omega-3s in it that most people's diet is missing from, and that's anti-inflammatory. And then, of course, the CBD, from my research, shows that it has unique healing properties that are similar to green tea or to black pepper. And y'all go, black pepper, but yes, black pepper is a spice that it has incredible properties to it that if you combine it with CBD oil and turmeric, it's like 2,000 times more effective, which is really a good thing to know. And I do think, plants work synergistically. They work in unison with others and in harmony. And what are some of your favorite herbs that you grow that you use medicinally in your kitchen?
So there are many, and you're right. I mean, we had the war on drugs, right? So that was part of it, and cannabis was demonized and silly in respect of, obviously THC is a euphoric component, but CBD, which is another compound found in the cannabis plant, does have amazing medicinal properties. And so if we look at hemp as a plant or an herb, that's actually one of my favorites. And you mentioned so well that when you use it synergistically with other plants, because the point is they have a lot of the same flavor profiles, they have a lot of the same terpenes in them, and the terpene is what gives it a characteristic, like linalool for lavender is also found in hemp. So that's when they are used together, they boost each other. So if you're looking for a relaxing effort, using the two in combination to each other, well, they're just working synergistically. We work synergistically with plants. Like I generally mention, we all breathe the same air. We all walk or live on the same earth. Obviously, plants aren't walking around. That would be kind of cool, though. But we're all here together. We all need to work in symbiotic relationship. So some of my favorite herbs in the garden, garlic is the one I always bring up because I use a lot of it. It's fantastic for your immune system, for inflammation reduction. Mint is a favorite of mine. I use it in everything, especially drinks and refreshing, and I make herbal teas out of that particular one. I use a lot of Ayurvedic herbs. Ashwagandha is a favorite that I started growing after a while myself, and that just is fantastic for things like memory, sleep. A lot of people use it because it induces relaxation for many people. again, these aren't medical claims. Plants don't necessarily cure, but they can help us heal, and they can very much support things that we want to do and have our bodies do, like reducing stress. And they're very supportive in that process when we take them in.
Well, I love that. And garlic is one of my favorites as well. And Dr. Stephanie Seneff, who's a major senior researcher at MIT that I've had on my show quite a few times, she thinks that garlic and onions, because they have the sulfur compounds in them, is one of the most healing foods you can possibly add to your diet. And she really recommends that. And I love it. And then the ashwagandha, which is really a fantastic herb, which is an adaptogen that helps your body adapt and be healthy in many different formats and ways, which is incredible. And then I think just all the herbs alone, even just the fragrance, or the fact that some of them put out flowers for the bees and the butterflies, which I know you and I love, the all the elements of the web of life and all the little creatures that contribute to our enjoyment of being outside. As I look at this past year, where we've all been started to get bombarded by this 5G radiation and kind of craziness from the news and everything else, people have been in anxiety. They've been hammered by the electromagnetic field radiation can cause anxiety and insomnia. And I know a lot of these herbs that you were mentioning and the CBD can help reduce that and create calming effect over you and help you stay grounded, and I believe help prevent some of the negative side effects of what we've been subjected to in this last year. And I know you were talking about mint, which is one of my favorites. And I know that you and I talked about this before, but put that in a pot. Do not put it in the ground because it will take over. And if you've never grown a plant before, try growing mint in a little pot that is contained where it won't escape and take over your yard. But when I was in Greece studying Mediterranean cooking, all the women, when you walked in their homes, they would have pitchers of water on the table with mint in it. And it would just infuse the water with this beautiful quality of the flavor. And I know a lot of people want to stay hydrated, but they don't want to drink plain water. And so infusing them with some of these medicinal herbs is a really great way to have flavorful water. And it provides, I think, greater health benefits to your water as well.
I think so too. And a really cool tip for that, like we're moving into summer now, spring and summer. So for people who don't have access to herbs regularly, farmers markets, even your organic grocery store, you can always find them. Buy them in quantity, chop them up and freeze them in ice cubes. It keeps the plant material fairly intact and fresh, and drop them into your drink or your water throughout the summer, or your pitchers of water to infuse them. So it's not that you have to have them on hand growing in your garden every day. You can certainly preserve them. And the book talks a lot about this, 2 different ways to do that. That's one of my favorite tips to give people, is the ice cubes are just amazing. You just drop them right in, and then it infuses throughout the day, that pitcher of water. Or even, I love mint and grapefruit mixed together, grapefruit juice. Amazing. Like the flavor combination, and of course the benefits for your body of drinking that as well.
I love that. What a great tip. And something I learned that I think a lot of us want to know is it actually preserves the vitamin C when you freeze it as well. And I always wondered about that. But fragile nutrients sometimes don't store well, or they dissipate after a while. But apparently freezing them, you can maintain a lot of those nutrients that are right from that fresh plant. And what a great tip. And then you have pretty ice cubes too, when you have your friends over for tea or something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's fun. And you can even do like edible flowers in there too if you really want to get fancy.
I love that. And I know you also grow basil in for different varieties. And do you want to expand a little bit on your basil plants?
Yes, so I do grow multi varieties. We make a lot of Italian type cuisine, or Mediterranean. So that's a plant I use frequently, also for many other reasons. But Tulsi basil, which happens to be a power plant in Ayurvedic communities, is just as easy to grow as regular basil. And you can grow that at home too. Use it in all the same ways. Use it medicinally, or use it just to season your um, vegetables or whatever you happen to be making, pizza, if you're not vegetarian. But so there's so many
Well, you can
ways
make
to
vegetarian.
use. Yeah, you
But I
can. Well,
love
you can make vegetable pizza if you're vegan. I guess that's where I was going, and no cheese, right? So, um,
you can do a flatbread. But
yes.
the holy basil, or should I say, in Ayurvedic, it's so revered that they call it holy basil, and use it for all kinds of things, including hormones, regulating hormones, which I think so many people are challenged with today because the herbicides that they put on a lot of the plants, like the glyphosate that's in the Roundup Ready, that's a synthetic estrogen that throws your hormones off. Plastic that things come in, they infuse the water, and it is high estrogen, and it throws your hormones off. So a lot of people are struggling with disrupted hormones. So I think drinking this holy basil can really help a lot. And just a funny story, but I was health counseling an older guy who did not even had just grown up on fast food, did not know even how to cut a piece of fruit or make a smoothie. And so I was teaching him literally how to, do some food preparation in the kitchen. And I made him some holy basil tea, some Tulsi tea. And I got a phone call from him about 2 hours later, and he was just like, wow, what was that tea you gave me? I feel like Superman. And I just a lot of people who grow up on this fast processed foods, they start eating whole real food. And it is incredible the phone calls I get where people are just like, wow, that apple I just ate was like the best thing I've ever had. And, they'd be so, their taste buds have been so processed with these chemicals that they put in all this processed foods, these synthetic, artificial, MSG, things like that, that their taste buds are, kind of like, it takes them about 2 weeks to kind of detox from that when they start eating real food. And then all of a sudden they start really tasting the beautiful flavors of these fresh foods that they haven't really ever appreciated before. And then they start feeling so healthy and better that it's, all of a sudden you've got people cooking in the kitchen and, starting little gardens. And it's wonderful. And I think more and more people are getting back to that now and wanting to learn what you do and be inspired by your wonderful recipes and be able to go in the kitchen and make that. And so, what are a couple of herbs or plants that you might recommend somebody start with if they have never done this before?
Okay. So really any herb, most herbs are incredibly easy to grow. They grow prolifically like weeds. In fact, many of the things we call weeds are actually herbs, just by a different name. It's really the only difference that stands between us and a weed is us. We name it differently. We put it in a different category because it's not widely accepted. As we talked about in the past, dandelions, that's one of the weeds here in the United States, but if you go around the world, it's treated much differently. It's a great medicinal plant. It's great for salads, for fiber, and all of those things. And I wanted to get back just for a second about Tulsi and the hormone difference. I'm menopausal, right? So I'm in my 50s. And tulsi and ashwagandha mixed together in a medicinal tea, that's a life changer for some of us who are going through hormonal changes in life. So it can really, as you say, even things out, even the mood. And that's important because we want to kind of have this rhythm of life where we're not on this roller coaster. So I think for anybody, mint, like you said, is such a prolific grower. It's hard to not grow it, no matter where you put it, because it's a very hardy, strong plant. And most herbs are. Some herbs are sensitive, like basil. Basil is very sensitive to cold, and you needs a constant type of soil drainage as well. So there are some, and I detail all of that in the book too for people to help them out in determining which ones to start with. Thyme, mint are very weed-like in their growth patterns, grow very quickly, really easy. Rosemary is a fantastic one to grow. You set it and forget it. That is a very hardy plant, and it can be part of your landscape too. So if you live in a home, you don't have to have a special garden. You can actually integrate these things just right around the house. Lemongrass, a lot of these herbs, it's interesting too, that they have additional properties that you'll want to bring around your home, right? Because like lavender is going to repel mosquitoes. Lemongrass is going to repel snakes from coming into your home area. So they have different properties as well, and scent, and you can just kind of walk around. And as you say, aromatics, getting the aromatherapy. So those are ones to start with. They also grow really well inside in containers or in an aquaponic situation if that suits your lifestyle better.
That is so great. And I actually landscape with herbs, and I love that you mentioned that. I didn't know the lemongrass kept snakes away, and I'm in Texas and I'm right by some lakes, and I'm always finding these big turtles in my yard. And I put the lemongrass out there because it was a mosquito repellent, but it's good to know that snakes don't like it also. And I love to just kind of rub the leaves in my fingers sometimes, like the rosemary. I'll just rub the plant and just smell it, and it just lifts my spirits. And it actually has medicinal properties, even just smelling it. And then the flowers on lots of herbs are the bees and the butterflies' favorites. And so, that is a wonderful thing because, they're really being challenged right now, especially with these high frequency radio waves that are being hit at us. And so we want to support them as best we can. And so planting organic heirloom type of herbs, which I highly recommend, if you're going to get seeds or grow things, and I'm sure that you agree with me, Barb, get it organic or heirloom. You do not want GMO seeds that have poison built into them. And GMO seeds will have plants that have no nectar for the pollinators, which is one of the reasons that bumblebees have gone extinct, many of the varieties, because they will starve to death. And so you want to, if you're planting flowers in your yard, it makes you enjoy your garden more and you want to be out there more, but it also supports the environment. And I love that, I planted a cut flower garden once that was edible, and that was so much fun. And my daughter and I would just make flower salads.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And there's good medicinal benefits to some of those too.
Well,
so especially,
oh dear, I'm gonna let you talk a minute. Sorry.
That's fine. Yeah. The dogs went out. As you mentioned, flowers. I do have a section in the book too. There's a lot of medicinal flowers, and rose being one of the most prolific growers, but not just any normal rose. You want the wild roses that have the rose hips on them, and they can be used in a variety of ways, from drinking to, I think, also understanding that a lot of these herbs and plants, we have to think outside of just the dinner table, and that nature can be used in so many ways to help with hair, face. Rose is a great astringent for your face. And spritz on a little rose water in the summertime kind of helps refresh. as well as drinking it. So from the inside out, all of these things connect. And as you know, nature is better. We all know this. We went through a phase though, and I think those of us who kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s watched the explosion of the 80s excess, and everything became more, and produce. And how can I just, I don't have to think, I could just pop everything in the microwave and I'm done. But we lost out in our body battle in that sense. We lost that connection with nature. And one good thing I think that came out of the pandemic, or I think you like pandemic better, uh, which I agree
Or
with.
sometimes I just call it
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yes. But one good thing that came out of that is for many of us, it gave us time to kind of get back to our lives in our home and get outside a little bit, because we wanted the fresh air and the ability to enjoy and do different things. And so to get back to nature and to start rethinking not only how we treat our planet and how we interact with it, but what goes into our bodies as we're sitting here trying not to snack away our day and gain that,
Yeah,
freshman 15, right, as
exactly.
you go to college.
Yeah, no, I so agree with you there. And I think, one of the things that I do to relax, and it's therapeutic for me when, I'm being bombarded by all this information that's like the Twilight Zone, or from these high Wi-Fi radio towers they put up this last year. I go out in my garden, and gardening for me is like meditative, and so is fixing my own food. And I think it is just, part of my being healthy and staying grounded and calm is, having that tangible touch with my food and being able to prepare it. And then I think, we need to also recognize the fact that, I'm sorry about the dogs.
All right.
I have to put them outside, I think, in a second if they are quiet. They are seeing a cat. And but the therapeutic quality of getting grounded, I think it helps calm us, it helps with anxiety. And then with a CBD oil, which is something I use, and I use it on my face as a oil, but it's also, great for calming, for insomnia, and also stopping seizures, which I think is critically important. And I know there's a law in the US where we're not allowed to make claims for food or natural God-given substances. They're only allowed to make health claims for chemical made petrochemical pharmaceutical drugs, which I have to admit, I personally think is ludicrous. But for me, I use the God-given things as my medicine, and I have for about 35 years now. And I think there's a lot to be said for the traditional medicines that our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and our great-great-grandmothers and families used, and the indigenous people used. And in the last, I guess since World War II, we've kind of been pushed by media and by society to not do that and to do the processed and fast foods and the microwaves, which I have to admit, I will duct tape people's clothes and tell them, throw that thing out. and so I know you and I really connected on the fact that, we like being in a slower pace, and I find it more healthy. And I think it really does help overall health, because I'm very much holistic, body, mind, spirit. And gardening and cooking for me is all of that. And, you fill that food with all that love. And how can you go wrong with that? And when you're cooking with plants and these, high antioxidant, colorful, rich plants, that just sends health throughout your body. So much more so than anything that's synthetically made with chemicals at some kind of processing plant. And I do think more people are wanting to do what you're doing and creating that loving, healthy, vibrant food from their garden. So I love that you mentioned the hydroponics. And I always tell people, I mean, you can control your water there too. You don't want to use tap water with chemicals and chlorine and fluoride in it, but add some, pure water that's mineral rich so that your plants have the minerals and all that quality in them. And I know that you do that because you have little critters out in your garden that really love lettuce.
Yes.
So share with us some of your tips and tricks for what y'all do with your gardening to make it more organic and animal friendly.
Yes. So sure. Obviously we live on a farm, so that we have lots of animals. We back up to a major wooded area, and we support and love all of those animals too. I don't see them as a nuisance, but a challenge at times. As you said with lettuce, I used to grow it outside, and then found that I just was running out of lettuce or never getting any because the animals were getting their fair share no matter what I did. Moved it into the greenhouse, and that worked, but in a 4 season area, going out in the winter time to get your fresh greens can be a little problematic on certain days. So I thought, all right, what can we do? I moved it inside and was growing in soil, but then I switched to aquaponics, which is such a great way to grow things indoors, whether you have a single or 2 bedroom apartment or a house. It doesn't matter. All you need is a small, simple counter space. You can buy small units, you can buy larger units depending upon your needs, and grow it in a very simple way. So that is definitely a trick. And what I tried to emphasize in the book, and I think is so important as we live in a very immediate demand society, we can get on Amazon and click, and it's on our doorstep, sometimes within hours, depending on where you live to a facility, right? Amazon has same day delivery. So we live in this time of immediate gratification. Well, herbs and plants, but I'm going to focus on herbs because that's what the new book is about, can also be immediate. We don't have to make this complicated. As people say, it's hard to grow. Herbs are not hard to grow. You can find many ways, and aquaponics works for people who have no green thumb at all. It's a set it and forget it system that will alert you if you need something else. So there's just so many ways to do this where it is just an integrated part of your lifestyle. It's easy access. What could be simpler or faster than brewing some hot water and throwing some herbs in and making a tea that actually supports you and does what you need? What could be faster than picking up a bottle of CBD oil, sublingually taking it if that's what you need to reduce your anxiety on the spot? These are instant gratification things. They're just happen to be natural, and we all know nature is better. That's a no-brainer. For CBD in particular,
I like that.
yeah, that's more powerful
Okay.
than an aspirin.
And I just want to tell y'all, Barb's book, Getting Baked, is full of so many wonderful, healthy, inspirational tips that are easy for you to do. And I highly recommend it. And as we close the show today, I'm going to put all her links below. And I really think that all of us will benefit from her wonderful book. And Barb, would you come on my show again one day really soon and expand on some of these topics that we weren't able to really expand on today?
Absolutely. You are a joy, and what you bring to your audience is amazing. I'd be happy. I'm honored to be here again, talk to everybody, and hopefully bring a little bit extra. I'll come on anytime. Sustainable living, I'm up for that any day. We'll have fun talking. So if anybody needs to get a hold of me, they could, yeah.
So it's Barb Webb, and her last name is Webb, and she's on all social media. She's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. And so thank you. And I'm just honored that you are here, and I can't wait to have you back on to share more pearls of wisdom about your beautiful rural life out in the country, and how healthy that can be for all of us. I just want to absorb it from you right now.
Well,
And for all
wonderful. We will be in touch.
And for all the listeners out there, Barb and I just want to say that we are honored for you to share this time with us today. And we hope that you always add that main ingredient into all your dishes, and that main ingredient's always love.
Yes.
So thank you, and we'll be back.
All right.
And there's our medical disclaimer, because we're talking about health and natural ingredients from God. So thank you, Barb, and look forward to next time.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful weekend, and everybody be well.